Isn't it funny that we spend most of our lives upset at others and in anger, resentment, and conflict, yet we cannot control what other people do? And our entire realm of personal responsibility lies within us, and yet we're giving all of our attention away to someone else instead of focusing on that area we can control. Welcome to Path to Peace with Todd Perlmutter. I'm your host, Todd Perlmutter. Our world is a projection of our collective consciousness. The more peace we bring into our lives, the more peace we bring into this world. So let the transformation begin. And the key to lasting peace and happiness is not to change the world, to be nicer and kinder, to block out any negativity. It is always to change ourselves, to become free from the power that we give to other people over our emotions, our thoughts, our attention. And we do this by recognizing that every time we are upset at others, we are actually upset at ourselves. We are upset at ourselves for being either too naive or too trusting, too unrealistic, too careless to give our heart to someone and be vulnerable to their cruelty. This in no way excuses what someone else did. It doesn't mean their actions weren't infuriating and horrible. This is simply about us taking our power back and rising above what anyone else can do to us so that it becomes so insignificant in our lives that we just brush it off like some dust on our shoulder. As soon as we shift our focus and realize that the anger at others is that natural tendency in the brain to project our anger onto others, to use others as a vehicle for expressing our anger. And we realize that it is actually directed towards ourselves, that we are the ones feeling anger, that we are the ones disturbed by violent or angry passion. Then it becomes so much easier to let that anger go because we realized that it's against ourselves. And to do this, we have to recognize that on some level underneath our anger is a frustration with ourselves. We didn't leave a situation when we could have. We didn't read a person clearly. And of course, none of this is our fault. We are all on a lifelong journey of learning. But we don't need to be hard on ourselves when we failed to understand human beings. Because humans will always be human. And it takes a lifetime to fully discover what that means. And so we can give ourselves grace when we are being hard on ourselves. But the first step is recognizing that when we are hard on others, underneath that is a hardness we're being on ourselves. The other thing to remember is that your consciousness gives rise to the entire universe as you perceive it. None of us can see atoms. None of us can see energy. So we are not perceiving the universe as it is. We are perceiving the universe as we create it. If we suffer the words and actions of someone else, we create that response. We created it through our mindset that said people shouldn't be like this, even though they are. We created it through a desire for kindness, for our expectations to be treated the way we treat others. But that is not the world we live in. The world we live in, people are very hurt. People are very confused. People have no awareness of their actions, why they are behaving the way they are, and the consequences of their actions. If they had consciousness of their actions, they would not create conflict, which would only make their lives worse. Conflict is always an unconscious reaction based out of our pain and unawareness. Just as we don't get angry at a bear or a tiger or a shark or even a dog for attacking a person, we don't need to get mad at a person who is behaving like a rabid dog simply because we are projecting our mindset onto them, our mindset of knowing better. We still get away from the dog. We don't lose our wisdom. In fact, we gain it. We don't lose our peace. We gain security and safety because we act on instincts. We don't expect a bear to treat us with kindness. We keep our distance. We keep our wits about us. And we recognize that anger and hatred do not protect us, do not make us safer. In fact, if anything, they signal to the bear in subtle, nonverbal micro-expressions that we are a danger to the bear, and the bear is more likely to attack. If we do get angry at that bear, that says nothing about the bear. It says we have a ton of anger within us, a ton of self-hatred and anger, and we are using that bear as a vehicle for expressing it, releasing it, and as a deflection tool of self-preservation of our ego by creating an external focal point of that rage that is within us. But it doesn't release it. In fact, it strengthens those neural pathways in our brain so they become stronger, so we're more likely to react in outbursts of anger, and it will be harder to stay at peace when we live in a society with bears, metaphorically. It is very tempting to be angry at the bear. The bear was in the wrong. The bear was violent and angry and hostile. But our anger doesn't serve us. It makes us in more danger. So our goal, our long-term goal, is de-escalation, is calm energy that calms the people around us. And we benefit because we become that calm energy. And just as our anger at others is truly anger at ourselves, our love and compassion is the same. You cannot be critical of others. You cannot have criticism as a habit towards others and not occasionally turn that towards yourself. You cannot be endlessly loving and compassionate to yourself if you are hateful towards others. And likewise, you cannot be endlessly loving, patient, kind, and compassionate to others without being the same back to yourself. There is no separation between these feelings. If you are feeling hatred, it does not matter what the object of your focus is, whether it is internal or external. And the anger and hatred we feel externally only short-term pleases the ego. But in the long term, it drains us emotionally and spiritually. There is this dark and light within us both. And when we go on that negative spiral of criticism, judgment, anger, and hatred, it can feel better than self-loathing, depression, sadness. But only if we don't know how to tap into that side of light within us. This is how that darkness feeds. And it always leads from one to the other, internal and external. It may feel good to be in that critical hatred mode instead of hating ourselves and criticizing ourselves. But that leads to a lonely life, a life of constant conflict, and a life that doesn't make us truly happy. And as hard as it is, when we turn that negative mind positive, when love and compassion become our habit, then the good and happy life that we all want naturally emerges. And if we want to truly understand humans and human nature, the only place that makes sense to look is within us. This is the only place that we have access to see human nature from within, to see the thoughts, the emotions, the instincts, desires, fears, and the potential within every one of us. Potential for good and potential for bad. None of us are perfect. None of us are free from the potential to be hurtful. And when we understand what it truly means to be human, when we truly know ourselves, then the illusion of separateness, the illusion of us versus them, me against you, disappears. Because it all appears on the singular screen of our consciousness, of this single eternal moment. Infinite and eternal cannot be divided into seconds or minutes. You cannot get half of infinity or half of eternity. And the true nature of ourselves and of this universe is infinite and eternal. And all separateness and individuality simply appear on that screen of the infinite, appearing as illusions in the realm of oneness. And we can reach a place where when someone is cruel, hurtful, frustrating, selfish, where we see it as that picture on a screen, no more than light and sound briefly appearing and disappearing. And we just move through life watching the show. And just because this virtual reality is so good and we can't see the pixels and we can't feel the headset, we don't need to forget that we're just passing by, briefly witnessing what it is to be human, what it is to be alive on Earth in this time. Everyone around us, pretty much, is forgetting that they've bought tickets to this human show and that we're all safe in the realm of consciousness, that nothing can truly hurt us, that the energy that animates these bodies is never in danger. The energy cannot disappear. This voice in our head, this fragile ego that sounds like us, doesn't get to dictate our emotions, our feelings, and neither do the words of anyone else, because it's all just noise. within our field of awareness. We don't need to cling to nice words, and we don't need to fear, reject, or be angered by unkind words. We are not these bodies. We are not the names on our birth certificate. So no one can say anything that can hurt our feelings, because we're just funny shaped objects. Nobody is objectively beautiful. We're all subjectively whatever we are, and it doesn't matter because it's not who we truly are. There is no need to be insecure. Pure consciousness, pure energy, pure light has nothing to be insecure about. No one can push our buttons if we are pure light, pure energy, and awareness. The arrangement of these atoms is so temporary in the universe, but the energy is forever. The more that you understand your true nature, which simply happens when we turn our attention inward instead of always keeping it outside of us. When we spend time noticing how the voice in our head speaks to us and how we let it affect us, we naturally rise above it. The ego is powerless unless it can convince us that it is who we are. It is just a voice, and it doesn't have arms or legs, but when it can convince us it is us, then it can control our arms and legs, our mouth. It has a body, and it can do whatever it wants. But when we become aware of this nature, we rise above it. We understand its tricks, and it loses its power over us. Instead of fighting it, we just observe it lovingly, just like everything else. We simply rise in wisdom, clarity, peace, and calm. And we become permanently joyful and blissful. And the people around us who may be used to our more critical nature, or maybe our even more unhappy nature, may not be able to tolerate our growth, and they may try to tear us down even harder. People may become extra cruel. People may really try to push our buttons to try to prove that we haven't grown. But we are just going to stay loving, stay compassionate, because they are hurting, and simply allow that some people will fall out of our lives as we grow, and trust that new people will come in at the right moment who align with who we're becoming. And it's in this way, not through anger or blocking people out, but through evolving, that our world becomes kinder, that we get to interact with more loving people. But we can't escape that journey of growth to get there. And the way we do that is simply by remembering that people are just mirrors of our consciousness. The entire universe, just like us, inseparable, indivisible. That blame is just self-blame in disguise. And through forgiving and loving ourselves, we can forgive and love others. That is the only way that we change, and that is the only way we change the world. Thank you so much for listening. If you feel like it's difficult to let go of anger, hatred, if you are trapped in negative thinking and want to turn those decades-long mental habits around, then the U-Turn book collection that I've written is for you, and it is completely free. at eastwestism.org, EASTWESTICISM.org. And there you will be able to download my 4 most transformative books that I have received so much positive feedback on, that I just felt that every single person who could use more peace and more happiness should have access to these words. No matter what your past is, no matter what habits you have, we can all turn things around. And that is the point and purpose of the U-Turn book collection, spelled Y-O-U. So I hope you can check it out. I hope you love it, and I hope it helps. Thank you again for listening. Much love. Is there more to this universe than science can show us? Is there anything mystical or miraculous in the remote corners of the earth that I could see with my own 2 eyes? My newest book, Aloneness to Oneness, is that journey of discovery. From the rebellious kid who rejected it all, to the adult searching for something deeper, to the person I am today. It is all of the stories, wisdom, lessons, insights, and inspirations I gained on this adventure. If you've ever questioned, doubted, or wondered about the meaning of it all, this book is for you.